This is another BS CEO that I've reported a lot on, Apoorv Mehta. Take a good look at him. Inside Instacart's frenzied summer of unsuccessful deal making with Uber and DoorDash. So I haven't read the article yet, but just the headlines. I mean, does this guy think that these egomaniacs are going to do any deals with Instacart? Do you think there's going to be deals between Uber and DoorDash and Instacart? No ways, man. These guys all have such a massive ego. It's all me, go it alone. They're not going to collaborate. If anything, they'll steal the other guy's idea. Right, so here it is. Instacart former CEO Apoorv Mehta suggested DoorDash acquire Instacart. Joke. Incoming Instacart CEO Fiji Simo also got involved in DoorDash's deal talks. DoorDash passed on the deal. Uber also passed on an app integration with Instacart. There it is. I don't have to say more. I think the headlines are, we don't even have to read the rest. They don't want to deal with Instacart. It's me. In early summers, Instacart co-founder and then CEO Apoorv Mehta reached out to Uber's CEO's Dara Khosrowshahi. Good luck reaching out to him and getting anything done about an integration deal. A proposal would let Uber's place grocery orders with Instacart through the Uber's app. In the midst of those talks, Mehta also reached out to DoorDash's Tony CEO, who also screws over Tony Zhu, who also screws over his drivers by stealing their tips. $400 million man. That's how much the guy made. And he wants to get into bed with these thugs? Good luck. The DoorDash situation soon evolved into a discussion about a merger, one that Mehta instigated but then abruptly pulled out of. The talks were restarted several weeks later and involved Instacart's incoming CEO Fiji Simo. According to people familiar with the matter, ultimately DoorDash passed on the deal, preferring instead to build its own grocery delivery. There we go. Why should we integrate? We'll just steal your ideas and integrate it and make our own, right? Its own grocery delivery service rather than spending upwards of $40 billion to acquire Instacart's. Uber passed too. The people asked not to be identified discussing private matters. We're a joke. All of you are a joke. Instacart's frenzied summer of unsuccessful deal-making raises new questions about its business. While the grocery delivery service quadrupled in size last year due to the pandemic lockdown, it's now dealing with the reality of what its business will look like in less extraordinary times and more competitive landscape. With Instacart's planning to go public soon, it will be challenged to keep up that 2020 growth rate. Another breakout company during the pandemic, Zoom, recently projected slower growth, sending its stock down 15%. Many Instacart employees remain confident in the underlying business, noting that it will still grow around 10% this year and post a profit. They still acknowledge that its first year as a public company could be rocky. Had Instacart managed to strike a deal with a larger gig company, it would have helped alleviate these problems. It was something that Mehta seemed set on accomplishing this past summer. The information reported on Instacart's scuttled deal talks with DoorDash, pegging Instacart's asking price between $40 billion and $50 billion. Spokespeople at Instacart, DoorDash, and Uber declined to comment. The proposal to Uber would have allowed its users to access Instacart inside the Uber app to order groceries. It was similar to a deal that Uber struck with convenience store delivery service GoPuff. Mehta reached out directly to Khosrowshahi on the deal, a move that some at Uber saw as unusually aggressive, according to a source with knowledge of the discussions. In the approach, Instacart executives said they were hoping to blend its domestic grocery delivery business with its largest player, with Uber's established international grocery delivery, the person said. During those talks, Mehta also reached out to DoorDash Tony Zhu, informing the company that Instacart was in talks with a competitor and heavily implying that was Uber. Instacart executives suggested to DoorDash that a deal with this rival would be imminent. However, Uber executives were unaware of any urgency in their conversations, according to a person familiar with the matter. Another person familiar with the discussion said Instacart was never too set on making a deal with Uber, describing the talks with the company as casual. Uber passed on the deal, preferring instead to focus on its own international grocery business and building up Corner Shop, a Latin American grocery delivery startup that recently bought. Uber executives also had reservations about the value of an integration with Instacart because it was unclear how the business would perform post-pandemic, a source familiar with the discussion said. Unlike Uber, the talks between Instacart and DoorDash progressed much further. According to another person familiar with the situation, initially DoorDash executives were lukewarm on the idea of integrating Instacart into its restaurant delivery app, worrying that it wouldn't be a smooth experience for users. However, during those talks, Meta suggested that DoorDash should acquire Instacart. His argument was that the combined companies could achieve larger scale, be in a better position against competitors like Amazon and Walmart. Instacart had also a burgeoning advertising business that executives argued would be complementary to DoorDash. Not long after Meta suggested the merger, he went silent and the talks appeared dead. But several weeks later, Instacart reached out again, this time involving Fijisomo, a Facebook executive and Instacart board member who was replacing Meta as CEO. Despite only recently accepting the job as Instacart CEO, the company's proposal would not have seen Simo replace Zhu as the CEO of the combined company, according to a person familiar with the talks. As the companies restarted the deal talks, several issues cropped up. Among them was the possibility of antitrust regulators blocking the deal. One person familiar with the situation said the deal might be stuck in regulatory review for over a year, which would limit the ability of DoorDash to expand quickly into grocery. That was a non-starter for Zhu. Another person said that DoorDash didn't consider regulatory issues a major factor, according to a source familiar with its thinking. Instead, more concerning was the cost of acquisition, a roughly $40 billion valuation for Instacart versus DoorDash's $65 billion market cap, and whether the combined business could be complementary. While Instacart's ads business was attractive, DoorDash executives were concerned about Instacart's customer churn rate. The grocery app has lost hundreds of thousands of users from its peak in 2020, according to App Annie data, something that could blunt the growth of its ad business. Ultimately, DoorDash passed on the deal, deciding instead to focus on building its own grocery delivery service. Another person close to the deal said that Instacart remains in a strong position with the company's exclusive agreements with many major grocers locked up for years, and the company's growth remains strong, with the company expected to post a profit this year on an adjusted earnings basis. Instacart, under new CEO Simo, is now focused on going public. That means continuing to build up its ad business, managing its relationship with grocery stores, and dealing with an increasingly crowded space. A group that includes Amazon, grocery store chains, highly funded startups like Gorillas, and increasingly DoorDash and Uber. My message to CEO Simo, the new Instacart CEO at Instacart: don't make the same mistake your predecessor, Apoorv Mehta, made. Start treating your drivers with respect and pay them accordingly. Your comments, please.